This video will explain what Iaido is, the wisdom and philosophy behind it, and I will share my own personal journey through 3 years of training. So, what is Iaido? Iaido is a traditional martial art focused on the precise drawing and sheathing of the sword for situations where the attacker would be approaching while the sword is still within its sheath. Iaido was first practiced in the 16th century by samurai who aimed to hone and maintain their skills with the sword known as the katana. Iaido evolved from the practical swordsmanship techniques of the samurai to a more modern means of self-discipline and improvement, shifting the focus to the more spiritual and philosophical aspects of martial arts. The aim of a practitioner today is to cultivate a calm and focused mind, to preserve Japanese culture and tradition, and embody the mindset of the samurai. The philosophy and mindset behind Iaido is deeply rooted in Zen Buddhism and the samurai code of conduct known as Bushido. At its core, Iaido emphasizes and cultivates a calm and focused mind, precision, and the seamless flow of movements. One of the central concepts in Iaido is Zanshin, which refers to a state of relaxed alertness and awareness. Practitioners strive to maintain a clear and focused mind, both during practice and through everyday life. This heightened state of awareness allows them to respond calmly and decisively to any situation. Iaido practice requires rigorous discipline and control, not only of the body, but also of the mind. The precise and deliberate nature of the movements cultivates patience and perseverance, as students must continually refine their technique. This discipline extends beyond the dojo, influencing the practitioner's conduct and approach to life. Respect is a fundamental value in Iaido, both towards the sword and the teachings. The sword is treated with reverence, as the Japanese once believed that the swords are divine objects that deserve special treatment and consideration, also symbolizing the student's training and progress. Humility is also emphasized, as practitioners recognize that mastery is a journey, not a destination. There is always room for improvement. Iaido can be seen as a form of moving meditation. The repetitive nature of practicing kata helps clear the mind of distractions and brings a sense of inner peace. This meditative practice fosters a deeper connection with oneself in the present moment. Unlike many martial arts, Iaido is much more of an art than it is martial. While the movements in kata are informed by situations and martial principles, Iaido is not a means of practical self-defense in the modern day. Instead, it is a path of mastery for self-improvement. I started in October of 2021 alongside a good friend of mine. We love Japanese culture, language, media, and history, so when I discovered that my uncle attended a dojo that practiced Aikido and Iaido, we had to give it a shot. We knew before stepping on the mat that Iaido was definitely the more interesting of the two, and already bought plastic practice swords called bokken, but after trying both classes, Iaido was definitely a better fit, so we dropped Aikido a few practices in. Iaido in the early days was very unlike the mixed martial arts of my childhood. Everything was super slow, super simple, and exempt of any aggression. I love this approach to being so precise with my movement. It reminds me of my ballet days. Stricter, more precise movement and timing with full mental focus. I have had a knack for picking up anything I try and quickly acquired the moves in precision. My friend was decent himself, but he couldn't help but compare himself to me, which didn't help his motivation. He struggled with Iaido mentally much more than physically. He had a different expectation of what training Iaido would mean for him and how martial it would turn out to be. After class, he would be frustrated, and I would be satisfied, and this contrast only helped grow the divide for interest in the art, and he would end up dropping it. I tried giving him advice, going into it with more of a student-like mindset, to look for what Iaido could offer him rather than trying to get out of Iaido what it wasn't providing. At least watching us grow both side by side in Iaido gave me great perspective of what learning Iaido is like, and it helps me inform when I lead classes or help other students. Over time, I would hit walls or plateaus, eventually overcoming them with new feedback and approaches. Learning was a slope, small and gradual, with little bumps of insight and progress when things eventually clicked. The time between these revelations becomes much more inflated, as there is less novel movements and concepts, and much more time is required to hone and understand even the basics. My sensei has a more unique approach to teaching and is very different from the macho types I came to know from football and wrestling. He showed me once again that grace and beauty don't necessarily come from fast and strong movements, but from controlled, mindful precision. I took his advice to do everything slow motion, almost to a fault. I would go too slowly sometimes when practicing wazas together in a group. He told me that the slower I go, the faster I will improve, but there is a balance to be struck for when you go faster or slower. I knew this intuitively from my time in ballet and playing video games, but the temptation to move at my own pace was always there on the back burner. Once he started encouraging me to increase my tempo with the wazas, I quickly found that my mind wanted me to embrace more aggression and flashy speed. I learned that practicing quickly made my overall progress feel slower. I was more choppy and shaky. I rushed through the small details that I meticulously worked on in my slow practice. A core fundamental in my practice now is to change up the speed of how I perform and pay close attention to the details to master the waza in a variety of ways. When I was ready, I ordered my practice sword called an Iaido about a year in and then received it months later. This new sword was created in Japan from my specific measurements and furnishing choices. It truly is my own. The sword is a vessel I use for self-improvement. It is also a symbol of myself and my progress. Now that the sword sings as I swing it, it becomes more distracting. Trying to force the sound out of the blade with every cut is a taunting temptation, a demon in of itself that I must fight in order to maintain Zanshin. This analogy is a common lens of which I see my Iaido training, fighting my demons. I have gone through more than my fair share of trauma and depression, and I wish I could have harnessed this mindset sooner to help me through those darker times. With every cut, now I slice through my mental demons with mindfulness, precision, and self-respect. Having picked up skills quite quickly, my sensei has taught me all of the wazas in our style. For someone only 2 years into training by that point, it would be very taboo and it's frowned upon by other instructors. My relationship with him is unique, however. He recognizes my talent and potential and often gives me opportunities to teach others to help deepen my understanding of the art. This also helps me return to the basics, not just of the movements and wazas, but also the mindset of a beginner. Coming up on 3 years now, Iaido practice is a large balancing act between mental and physical focus. Improvement requires ever-increasing introspection and attention to the finer and often missed or unknown aspects of the art. I fell in love with philosophy before training Iaido, but now I have a consistent and fun way to improve my understanding of myself. The reasons why I record and upload videos are so that I can embrace a different perspective, I can journal my progress, and go back to see what my Iaido looked like in that time. Training is now expanding for me. The usual formula of practicing the same wazas over and over is the traditional approach, and it is taboo to practice things outside of that particular style. I have found, however, that these cultural norms have less of a place in the modern day. By going outside of the box and experimenting, I gain a larger perspective. I acquire even more of my skill set and experience. I make sure to stay true to the traditional teachings of the style I practice, especially in class, by having those forms memorized in mind and body. However, I find great utility in changing it up and adjusting the way I perform any and all moves from time to time to keep growing. My sensei and I have described the approach as such. Imagine a box. The box itself and everything inside of it is the traditional base that all practitioners stay within and master. Some never leave, and their Iaido can become stagnant and uninteresting, but true to the teachings of the style. After developing a strong base, the student will gain from bending the box a little, staying within it, but pushing the limits of what the box may hold. Eventually, it becomes beneficial to step outside of the box, to experiment and try novel ideas that can inform and improve one's practice. When performing Iaido, I will always stick to the style and wazas I am taught directly in that style, but in my own time, I expand my mastery beyond what the 60 plus wazas can introduce. The next chapter of my journey is coming into fruition. I'm glad to be sharing that journey with the world and be able to go back and see all the progress as it unfolds. I ordered another sword, this time going all out on the furnishings and choices. It will be arriving just in time for the beginning of my 4th year of Iaido practice in October. Right after this video goes live, I'll be going live. Come say hi. Let's talk about anything. Iaido, philosophy, gaming, anime. I just like to chat. If you like my Iaido content, please go check out my Iaido playlist. It has all of my wazas at their normal speed. I also have another playlist where I practice them at the pace that I would usually practice them in class when I'm trying to improve. And I plan on making much more content in the future. Go check out one of my live streams, even if you're watching this video long after it is uploaded. I'll see you there.